Check 1, 2, 3, check. Check 1, mic check, check.
You know how to do that, don't you?
We are live.
Okay, good evening. I would like to call our Tuesday, May 12th, 2020 regular monthly meeting to order at the auditorium. And I'd also like to take a moment to have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I recognize Ms. Cindy Sellers for our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Members of the board, you have the agenda in front of you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We didn't have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. All right. Also, members of the board, the consent agenda is presented in front of you. Is there a motion to accept that? Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll now recognize Mr. Gordon Palmer, principal at Alexander Central High School, for a presentation.
Good evening, Dr. Hefner, Chairman Ryan, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to come and present about the great year we've had so far at Alexander Central High School. I know recently there's been a lot of changes, but we have a lot to be thankful for and proud of this school year. The first thing I wanted to do is start off with some data from last school year. This is something that does not get reported to us until the fall. So last year when I presented at the end of the year, we had all of our preliminary information. So this is kind of a follow-up to last year and how we followed up as far as our academics. Last year, there's two different types of academic growth that we look at. There's one for our school report card grade, and that academic growth is primarily EOCs, which consisted last year of basically 3 different classes, 3 different EOC courses, and the state kind of changed how they calculate growth. But last year we went, from the previous year to last year, we went from being a C school and not meeting growth to last year we became a B school and we met growth. And we actually, if the state didn't change biology, they actually took biology out of the equation for growth. If they would have left biology in, we would have been at a 2.1, so we would have gone from not meeting growth to actually exceeding growth in 1 year, which our teachers and staff are extremely proud of. The other piece of academic growth that is reported from the state is educator effectiveness. This is kind of It used to be an additional standard for principals until they took that standard out, and that really gauges all of your classes. So your CTE tests, your EOCs, your NC final exams, and we went from a -6 not meeting growth to a +6 exceeding expected growth, and that to me is a better picture of the school because it shows all of your subjects together. So we're very proud of our academics and how we did last year. This year our data may be a little bit different with not having testing in the spring, but what I wanted to present tonight is at least show you guys how we're doing as far as our comparison, how we did in the fall, and how we compare. I'm not sure if we've done this before, but I always like to compare us to other schools and see how we're stacking up. And so for us, we can't compare internally very much because we're the only traditional high school. So then I looked at our surrounding counties. So if we look at biology, and we didn't want to kind of point anybody out, any particular district, but when we look at the next slide for biology, and you look at districts A, B, C, and D, those are our immediate surrounding counties. So for biology, for the first one is district average on the left-hand side, that chart. So as a school, our district average, we are the district average for a traditional high school. And when you look at these other district averages, they did also include their magnet programs like their IB schools, their early colleges. So even with that, we outpaced all of our surrounding counties as far as biology, which is one of the main EOCs where we get graded on. And then when you look at individual high schools, those are all on the right-hand side. Those are all of the traditional high schools for the surrounding counties, and we were only outpaced by one school. We tied one school, and then we were outpaced only by one school, which we actually tested more students than them. But again, we always want to be the best, and we want to be on top. So very proud of our biology department and our science department. They've been working extremely hard to get our students where they need to be. The next subject.
Mr. Palmer, before you move on, would you please explain to the group what the not available would mean in
Yep.
that second column?
Absolutely. So what you're looking at there is there's proficiency. So that would mean a student is proficient, they score a 3, 4, or 5 on their EOC. And then CCR means college career ready, which they would have to score at the top 2 levels, a 4 or a 5. And some districts decided not to evaluate or to share their college career ready data with us. So that's why we didn't have that data available. But that is something that we look at because we want all of our students to be college career ready.
Thank you.
For Math 1, as you can see here, green in every single category where we outpaced everybody in Math 1 is district average and also individual high schools, proficient and CCR. We have a phenomenal math department here. I couldn't ask for any better math teachers than at Alexander Central High School, and I'd put them up against any math teachers across the state. They do a phenomenal job. Math 3, and this was the first year of Math 3 testing as an EOC, and this is kind of an accountability measure where students prior to this year would take Math 1 and in middle school, and sometimes it would count for high schools, sometimes it would count for middle schools, and then they finally said, we're going to align everything and count Math 3. So again, as district averages, we outpaced all of our surrounding counties for proficiency. We tied one for college career ready, and then there was only one high school that two high schools that had beat us as far as Math 3, but when we looked at those, we had those particular schools, we had tested 3 times the amount of students, which to me signifies they were saving students for foundations classes and having them test in the spring, which means they would have tested all honors, and this is a representation of all of our students and not just our honors students. So whole school would be going up against honor students for the 2 that had outpaced us. So again, very competitive with our entire student body against other schools' honors courses. So we're very proud of how well we've been doing with our growth academically. The next thing I'd like to just kind of point out and what we're really proud of is our program offerings. We are continuing to see growth in our AP Academy. We're closing out the year as far as our capstone program. Last year we became an official school. This year we were able to offer our first capstone course. The students really enjoy that course, and especially their instructor, Dr. Vincent. He's doing a great job with that. The picture there is one of his class, capstone class, doing a presentation on the research that they conducted. We are also looking at computer science options. We have lots of students that are interested in computer science, and we see that that is going to be a huge opportunity for employment for future generations. And we were actually able to hire, I'm presenting a recommendation for hire tonight for someone who has experience in computer science, so we're excited about that opportunity. The Fire Academy, Mr. Deal has done a phenomenal job with our Fire Academy. We started out this year with a couple of, really just one public safety course, which is like our prerequisite to going into that and kind of the introduction to a Fire Academy. And he's grown that into potentially 3 sections for next year. We're just looking at the registration numbers, so he's definitely sparked our students' interest, and also the students that are interested in the school have really sought him out and think very highly of him. So he's a teacher that they want to be in his class. We also worked, I appreciate all the board support and everyone helping us transition Sugarloaf into potential Fire Academy. Our trade and industry, in particular for our CTE courses, that has grown tremendously, where our number of our core classes for construction core has grown tremendously. And what I take away from that is the economy is speaking, and our local industry is speaking, and our students are listening, and our board is listening, to where we are providing opportunities for our students to go in those fields that are growing and that they need electricians, they need people to work in construction and carpentry, which kind of goes down to the next point, where internships. We had roughly 60 internships this year, which is those are growing strongly, and we've made a lot of partnerships with companies that are willing to take on our students. And the great thing is we have a phenomenal CTE department that is creating a product that our local businesses want, so they're seeking us out, and we're also seeking them out at the same time to create these opportunities. So it's working very well for us. We had roughly 29 internships in the fall and roughly 31 internships in this spring semester. And the students love it, the employers love it, and so far I think everything has gone really well. We also had our Reality of Money, which was a great exercise. I know Ms. Sellers was there for that and was able to be part of that, where the students got to kind of see, hey, when we go out, how far is my paycheck going to get me? What happens if I have a kid? And I think that's probably their number one takeaway from it that I've seen is, man, kids are expensive, and they eat up a chunk of your paycheck. So letting them go through that and kind of see. And we want to expand that in the years to come, where we're not waiting till their senior year to show them that, but really earlier on. Some of the awards that we've accomplished this year, as far as a school, is our MTSS award. There were only 2 high schools in the state to receive a MTSS Model School Award, and this is for academics, behavior, and attendance. And we've created a great system here that the state recognized for identifying students and helping students get from their freshman year to graduation. Also, Skills USA, unfortunately, the state canceled their state competition, but we were able to go to the regional competition and win several first place and place several times in that competition, as well as our Beta Club competition, our convention, where several of our students qualified for nationals. And I just talked to Donna Reed today, who's one of our advisors for Beta Club, and she said that they've canceled the actual national competition in Texas, but they are going to do some virtual competitions, so we are still going to compete in that, which was great to hear, and kind of interesting how they've chosen to do that. Miss Reed does an incredible job with Beta Club. Some other great news that we have, there's a economic development corps that puts out applications for the top 100 students America needs to know about. We had the opportunity to submit a student for that, a candidate, and she was chosen. She was one of the only students from North Carolina that made that list. And Abby DeJarnette, I'm sure everyone in here probably knows Abby and the great things that she does with her Shiver Shack and helping throughout our school and entire community. So we were great that she was recognized with that honor. Amirna Chapman finished second place in the Holocaust poster competition, and I'm sure everyone knows her. She typically does a great job with the holiday card contest, and she's a phenomenal artist. Our National FFA Week, so that's the pictures of our tractors here. That was really student-driven, no pun intended, but they came to me and said, we've got National FFA Week, and we'd love to drive our tractors to school. What do you think about it? And so I said, that's great, but your mind goes through, all right, liability. When are they going to come? How are they going to drive through the parking lot? Are they going to hit a car? But we said, you know what, you want to do it? Let's sit down and plan it out. And we sat down with Mr. Scotty Cook and said, come here early. You can come right in. Get them parked and exactly situated how you want. And make sure your parents are okay with this, and they're very expensive pieces of machinery. So they did. We had lots of parents and family members there that morning in the parking lot taking pictures and videos of it, and the students just absolutely loved it. And it was really cool to see them coming in with the American flag flying off the back, and got to park them in the sophomore lot right on Lyle Down so everyone could pass by and see them. So, and that was, when we put it on social media, it was like our biggest social media blast ever. It had like over 30,000 views, and the students were really excited about that. We've also added a character spotlight. So we started last year with student spotlights, highlighting all sorts of different things and accomplishments, and we've added a character spotlight. That's Chase Adams there, where it could be anything from just doing the right thing when you think no one's looking, and we want to make sure that our students know that we really appreciate them having high character. Some of the partnerships that we were able to continue this year, and also some new partnerships. Scotty's Hometown Grill is always supporting the school in any way that they possibly can and going above and beyond, along with other, there's probably too many to mention in just one slide or in one presentation. Burger Basket, Teens and Deans, Crossroads Grill, everyone does a great job. Scotty's has really done a lot of different things this year to help us and put on events. The Huntington House, they just partnered with us for a new scoreboard, so they have donated $10,000 for a new scoreboard for the soccer field. And we also have other companies that are donating, but they pretty much donated the lion's share for that project. Lock Lane Construction has been great. They've partnered with us for internships. We've got some students that graduated last year that, we were able to connect with them, and they've got a great career right now, just 1 year out of high school. They've given us plenty of internships, and then they've also decided to partnership with us for different financial gains and advertisements. And then Apple City Barbecue just recently, Teacher Appreciation, we partnered with them so that all of our teachers could go there on Thursday of Teacher Appreciation Week to stop and get some barbecue for lunch, just to show their thanks. So we just wanted to thank those partners. With COVID-19, there's been a lot of different changes and updates, and deciding to go remote is something that doesn't happen overnight, but had to. So grades was one really big change that came, and the major two distinguished changes is there was one for seniors, and then there was one for all the other students, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. I feel like we've done a great job communicating that. And the main thing is really having those one-on-one conversations as well. We send out lots of communication through telephone calls, social media, videos, text messages, emails, but at the end of the day, especially for those students that are 9th through 11th grade, every situation is different and how it impacts their GPA is different. So having those individual conversations with parents to say, this is how it works and this is why it works and here's what's best for your student, those are really important. So I feel like we're doing a good job with that. The piece I think it's important for the board to know as well, is that worst case scenario, if a student chooses a numerical grade and wants to go back and choose a pass or vice versa, we have the opportunity to change that, especially if we cannot get in touch with the parent. We have the opportunities when school reopens to make that adjustment. Our teachers and staff, they've all done a great job making this change. And when they have questions, they reach out. We have lots of meetings together. And that kind of goes to, they had challenged me. They saw somewhere online that there was a zoo in San Diego that was offering to have llamas as a guest speaker on a Zoom meeting, so they challenged me, and my best friend from home owns a zoo, so I called him up and said, all right, April the giraffe, she needs to be in our Zoom meeting, can you make this happen? He says, yeah, let me call my zookeepers and get it done. So we had April the giraffe, the famous April the giraffe who had the baby live on the internet. She was in our faculty Zoom meeting one day, which was just kind of something interesting and fun to keep it lighthearted for the staff. Like I said, as far as our communication, we communicate everything through our website, emails, text messages, calls, and social media. We're also started doing every Wednesday. We have an update for anyone in grades 9th, 10th, and 11th, and every Friday we do updates for seniors. We're also staying organized because with all of these changes and all of this communication, and information, you have to document everything, you have to keep it organized. So we have roughly 50 plus documents going at any time where we're documenting students that have internet access, who we mailed home packets to, how we've communicated with parents, what students we hadn't heard from, and who needs a well check. So all of these things are happening quickly, and we're documenting everything and following up on everything. Some of our facility improvements, which again, thank you to the facility committee task force and also the entire board for making all of these changes happen and all these improvements. Our baseball facility, if anyone's been up there, it looks really, really good. We've got Pete Hardy works out there every single day. I don't think anyone works as hard as him. Especially maintaining that field, because every time we change something or every time there's an update, he goes back up and cleans it up and re-edges and just makes sure everything is spotless. So we've got the old poles out, they're putting up the new poles to get the new lighting up. The concession building, it looks great, all of the interior basically gutted and remodeled. So we're really excited for whenever we can have athletics back. We are really itching to go for, especially to get them on that baseball field because it looks so great. We've got new LED lights in the JV gym. We also have new LED lights in the lobby. It'll save on some energy, the ones in the JV gym, because they're motion activated, and after a certain amount of time they'll shut off, but then they pop right back on whenever there's any motion. So if you go in there, we've finished out the window wraps for the front of the school, so those look really good. We have those all in the whole frontage of our school. The fire department as well, like I mentioned before, at Sugarloaf. That was great too. When we had students here, they were able to help with the construction of that and kind of take some ownership. So, some of the grants that we've accomplished this or been awarded this year, we had 2 teachers apply for outdoor grants. Those we've followed up with too, it's through the Heritage Society that they are allowing us to extend those to next year. That was one of the first things that we did was call, because the outdoor gatherings that we had planned, Obviously, we can't have now, but they said it's fine, just send them the dates of when we plan to use it. And those were a couple of $1,000s a piece. Our Education Foundation, which we're very thankful for, we had four teachers here, Mr. Chester, Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Dupuy, and Ms. Mitchell all received Education Foundation grants. Our ROTC applied and was awarded an NRA grant to help with a shooting range. Ms. Dupuy was a finalist for the Welcome Boroughs Fund, and as a result of that, typically they don't give finalists awards. It's only the winner or the recipient, but they were so impressed with her that they decided to give her $1,000 to help her classes. And then Energy United, Ms. Higgins does a great job with her AP Environmental. They had a presentation here for all the students, and then they were able to compete against other schools, and they won that competition, and they were awarded over $3,700 for her class. The last piece I have on here is graduation plans. So we have been working on several different options. This has been going on for approximately a month and a half, maybe more. So we've come up with several different options. When we're going through these options, we're also working with, we wanted to make sure the county commissioners would be okay with that. We're in communication with Dr. Hefner. We want to be in communication with the board. We also met with Rick French and Doug Gillespie, and primarily also a parade route in case that was potential to have that available for our students. And then we sent out a survey, which you have with you guys. The first page is the parent results. The second page is the student survey results. And the third page is the staff results. So my two goals in graduation are to recognize each student individually so that they get their moment to hear their name or get a picture with them and receiving their diploma. But also my second goal is to have a celebration where they get to celebrate as a class. I think those are my two main goals in all of this, and how it'll look may be extremely different from how it would traditionally look, but we are exploring all options, and we're also paying attention to what's going on across the country, across the region, and we want to make sure that we provide the best opportunity to celebrate with our students. The first option that we've discussed is to receive an individual diploma at a weeknight private event where we have them divided out through several days, and they can come up with members of their family, and we would have to set that number with our local health department and county to decide the exact number of family members that they could bring up. But they would come up, they would get to walk across the stage, receive their diploma, hear their name, and get a photo opportunity where they would be there with their family and get a picture and capture all of that. The second option is a drive-in graduation, which would be the whole group ceremony where the senior class is all together, where they would drive in, we would have a ceremony, and then our thoughts of something special or something extra for the seniors would be when we leave and when the ceremony concludes, we would leave and they would be part of a senior car parade, which would follow the parade route downtown. Something interesting and something fun for the seniors to have special, rather than, I know some schools are just having kids drive up, they call their name, they hand them the diploma, and one at a time they drive through. I felt like that wasn't as significant as we would like or we've planned, but those are some things that other school districts are doing. The third option would be a combination, obviously, of 1 and 2, where they get to have early in the week, they have the individual, late in the week, on that Friday, June 12th, tentatively, to have the drive-in. Option 4 would be wait till July to have a one-day event. This would also be based on the governor's orders, so whatever the orders are at that time, we would have to follow. And then option 5 is if they don't want anything, they just let us know that. That I don't think would be something that I would be in favor of. So when we look at the parent survey results, option 1 was 32% in favor. Well, the first question, actually we're going to go to the first part of it. The first part of it, the bar graph, shows these are just, what sounds appealing to you, what would you be willing to do? And 59% said option 1, 33% said option 2, 60% said option 3, 25% said option 4, and 7% said option 5. And then the second one, the pie graph, shows what is your top choice. If you say, this is what I'd like to do the most. 32% said option 1, 9% said option 2, 40% said option 3, 14% said option 4, and 5% said option 5. And then the last question we asked was, if the senior parade would be a large undertaking, so we didn't want to take on that responsibility if they didn't want to do it. So we said, if we have the parade, would you want to participate? And 89% of the parents said yes. The next page is student survey results. So again, the first one are what options would you be willing to do? 61% said 1, 36% said 2, 46% said 3, 29% said 4, and 19% said 5. Then when you go to the pie graph of what is your top choice, option 1 is 31%, option 2 is 7%, option 3 is 31%, option 4 is 19%, and option 5 is 11%. And then again, would the seniors be willing to participate in the parade? 78% said they would be willing. And the last section is the staff results. And staff, first question, what ones would be appealing to you? 64% said 1, 59% said option 2, 69% said option 3, 19% said option 4, and 12% said option 5. And then what is the most, the one the staff would want the most? 23% said option 1, 16% said option 2, 48% said option 3, 7% said option 4, and 6% said option 5. We didn't ask the parade because we didn't want to add an additional 100 cars to the parade. I know I think everyone in general would want to have our traditional large gathering of traditional ceremony. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of constraints. The only system that I've seen that is holding that right now is Fort Mill, and they're doing it on the football field with no guests. I've also read an article where a school system, I think it was in Louisiana, a group of 30 parents sued the school system because they offered that option and said, I need to be at my student's graduation ceremony. So they went through 7.5 hours of mediation to where they are still trying to figure out their graduation ceremony. I don't think I would want to have something where we don't allow parents to come to a graduation ceremony. What we're trying to do is make the absolute best scenario of a very complicated situation. And we want to honor our seniors, and like I said, my two goals are honor them individually and honor them as a class where they get to celebrate together. And I'm by all means open to any suggestions and input from the board as to how we accomplish that. Again, with social distancing, and we ran numbers for capacity in the auditorium. There's 957 seats in the auditorium, in case anyone wanted to know. And then the seating capacity of the stadium is about 3,000 So when we're looking at that and current orders, whether it's 50%, we have our graduating class of approximately 300 students. So even if you look at 2 parents, you have 2 guests, because it could be parents, grandparents, all different types of family dynamics. So if you look at 2 guests, that would be roughly 600 guests that we would have. So if you're looking at the stadium, you've got 300 students, 100 faculty, and 600 guests. That's pushing over 1,000 individuals in the stadium. So these are numbers that we're constantly running and considering and thinking about, and also thinking about our social responsibility. That's also a big piece where I know lots of people are thinking about ideas and how can we do this and how can we make it happen, but we also have a social responsibility to make sure this is a safe and controlled environment to really put all the focus on our seniors.
Mr. Palmer, the only thing that you did not share that you and I had discussed today, I received a question as to the response rate on the surveys. Would you share that with the group, please?
Yes. So for the parent survey, there was 238 responses. I checked it again today. It was kind of left open, and there was 249 responses, and it didn't change the numbers really anything significant whatsoever. They pretty much stayed exactly the same. So 249 parents, 150 students, and 87 staff members. And we communicated the survey several different ways. Whenever we communicate something out, we try to push it out in several means. So we had a video of our Senior Friday update. So we had a video that was posted on our website and our social media. I made a call home to all senior parents. So every senior parent number we have in our system, a phone call went out, an email went to their email with a link in it, and text message went to any senior parent available to receive text messages. They also received a text message with the survey linked in their text message, and it was also listed on our website.
Mr. Palmer, I know you guys have put a lot of work into this, and I think everybody's just heartbroken. The whole community is heartbroken that we may not have a traditional graduation as we know it.
It was great to see some of our students out at our Be the Light night, and it was really nice to see them. But it was kind of still heart-wrenching knowing that they're looking at these empty fields that we wish we could have watched them play on all spring season. So absolutely, I second that.
I would like to say I know you're wanting to make a decision and you're winding this down, and it sounds like you're open to suggestions. So if we can have a little time and discuss it together and try to see. And we're all in this together, and we just want to make the best decision for families. And it's not going to be easy whatever decision's made, but I appreciate the information and the results of the survey and all the time you've put into it.
Thank you very much.
Did anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
I recognize Dr. Jennifer Hefner for our Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under my bullet on the agenda, if you will click there, I actually have more attachments than normal. I have my report that I'm getting ready to talk about, but also I have 3 additional attachments, one of which is the facilities update that you are used to seeing, and then the other 2, one pertains to funding sources to deal with COVID-19, and Sharon Mahaffey created that for me, and I certainly appreciate that. And then the other is a Google Doc, and it's end-of-year information that I will reference in my report also. So if you have an opportunity, even if you don't have a device with you tonight, to look at all those attachments, I would ask that you review those. On the facilities report, as I said, that's something that we've been doing now for several months. I'm very proud to let you know that the central office project is progressing nicely, and the finance department should be back in their newly renovated workspace next week. So they'll be out of the boardroom, and then we move the next group in, and but things just really look great in the finance department. Also, I wanted to let you know, last month, Susan Gant made a report that involved the CTE house. I wanted to follow up to let you know that Duke Power has installed the permanent power line and meter box. Justin Deal and Brian Lewis are working to make sure that everything electrical works with the changeover. Sherry Baird and Susan Gant did some cleaning today, and they plan to make a video so that we can post that. Post a virtual tour of the house on our social media accounts, and we'll use that as a form of advertising. Also, Mrs. Gant plans to advertise the house and the bidding process in the local paper, the Taylorsville Times. And Sam Davis, who is an agent with Cooper Milstead Real Estate, is assisting her with pictures and the pricing of the house, and he's doing that free of charge. So we're grateful to him for that. Mrs. Gant hopes to have it advertised for the first rounds of bids by the week of May 18th. And I would just say, cross your fingers. The last house that we sold, it stayed on the market a long time, and I'm hoping that this one goes very quickly. Also, I wanted to let you know that Keith Sipe has a mandatory student and parent meeting for the Construction Academy that will be held later this summer. The meeting for our students is this evening at 7 p.m. Susan Gant plans to participate in that phone call, and I guess the most exciting part of all that is that we have 5 students interested in the Construction Academy, and so that is good news. Bullet 4, if you can understand this legislation, you're doing better than the majority of superintendents in the state, because as of last week, there was some legislation passed that pertains to the calendar for the 2020-2021 school year. And because of the new legislation, Ms. Anderson's working on calendar revisions. You know, you all had already approved the 2020-2021 calendar, but she's working on those revisions to make sure that we follow the law. If you want to read the entire statute, it's Senate Bill 704. The confusion comes in the following statement. It mandates that all LEAs adopt a 2021 calendar with 190 days of instruction with 185 days or 1,025 hours of instruction that includes 5 remote instruction days in accordance with the remote instruction plan. Well, Dr. Curry, she and some other folks are working on our remote instruction plan because that has to be turned in at the end of June, I think. Is that correct? Well, then there's another little caveat in here. It says an additional 5 instructional days that can only be satisfied by individually separate and distinct full instruction days, not by hours. So we had a calendar, long story short, that you approved a couple months ago with 179 instructional days. Now, nothing in the statute changes for teachers. They still have to work 215 days a year. It's all about those days of instruction and those remote learning days, and then that little caveat, an additional 5 instructional days that can only be satisfied by individually separate and distinct full instruction days, not by hours. So, Ms. Anderson has worked for the past couple days. She's worked Monday and yesterday, gathering information and a variety of examples of calendars from other systems. And she's working on a draft for you to approve, and so plan on the approval of that revised calendar for 2021 to be on the June agenda. Before I go any further, if you could understand that little caveat in the statute, explain it to me. Because there has been a great deal of conversation. Well, can you go by 185? Do you go by 190? Can you schedule remote instructional days on teacher work days? Do you do that on snow days? All kinds of questions flying around throughout the state. And anyway, and in this statute, there are also some hard start dates and some hard end dates. There was a little bit of conflict in the beginning between the House and the Senate. The Senate wanted those hard dates, and the House compromised. So we will start, as our original calendar had students starting on August 17th, and we will be ending by June, help me, Jessica, 11th?
No, we're earlier. I think the 3rd.
We can end by June 3rd?
That gives us 215 days from August 17th.
Okay, all right. Well, more to come. Bottom line is that you're going to have a revised calendar for the school system for the 2020-2021 year on that June agenda. And we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions if you have any before the June meeting. Also, I wanted to let you know, again, this is one of the attachments on the agenda, that Renee Mead has gathered information from each of the principals about specific things specific to their schools, such as report card distribution dates, remote award ceremonies. I saw on there a lot of schools are doing Zoom ceremonies for different things, and just things of that nature. And I wanted you to know that we are gathering this information. In the event you field questions from parents, we will make that Google Doc available to you, and please understand that she is making additions and revisions as decisions are made at each of the schools. Then another document attached on the agenda pertains to the COVID-19 funding, and I am going to click on that one on my computer. We actually will be receiving 3 pots of money. One is from Governor Cooper, and that was the first pot that we heard about. It's a state funding source, and it can be used for things such as school nutrition, child care, remote learning, and sanitation costs that were incurred due to building closures for COVID-19. That has to be spent, it has to be used by June 30th of 2020. Then the next source of funds is referenced in Senate Bill 704 and House Bill 1043. Again, state pots of money. We do not know the amount that Alexander County will receive, so that's why it says unknown in that particular column. But again, this is money earmarked for school nutrition, computers and devices, summer learning. Again, Dr. Curry is working on a summer remediation, summer learning plan with a group of individuals from the system, and then contracted mental health services. That pot of money, the best that we can tell, has to be spent by December 31st of 2020. And then the last is a federal pot of money that you've probably heard about on the news. It's called the CARES Act. And you see the amount that we will be receiving. You can see the list of potential uses of those funds. And that pot of money is the longest as far as how far we can carry that out. It has to be spent by of September 30th, of 2021. So I just wanted you to have that because I know that you will hear comments about it on the news and different things. I wanted you to be aware of what we will be getting as far as this school system, the uses of the funds, and as well as expiration dates to use the money. Before I go to my next bullet, I also wanted to let you know that when we're looking at things to close out this school year, I became aware that more than $19,000 is owed for the entire system in unpaid lunch balances. When Ms. Caudle shared the amount for each school that will have to be zeroed out before June 30th, she started sharing those amounts this week. 2 things came to light. These are charges that were incurred prior to March 13th. That was the last date that students were with us. Nothing has been added to those debts since March 13th. And then the second question came from a couple of creative principals. They said, well, we see that we're getting some additional funding to help us with COVID-19 expenses. Could that be used to zero out the lunch balances? And the answer to that is no. So phone calls will be made to parents in an attempt to collect for those lunch debts. I hate that because I'm keenly aware that some folks are not working, but regardless, we cannot use school nutrition money that we have currently, and we cannot use the additional funds that we will get for COVID-19 to cover any of those. And as I said, that debt has to be cleared out before June 30th. So you might hear some rumblings in the community about that. Bullet 7, and it's the last bullet for me. I have been assigned to a reentry task force for all the superintendents. I'm actually serving as a co-chair for that task force, and we had our first Zoom meeting this morning at 8 o'clock. In that meeting, we're looking at a lot of things, and that is how we can come up with a reentry plan that is good for the state, that complies with some standards that I know that we will be held to with the Department of Health and Human Services. I want to learn from other states because some other states have gotten on some of this faster than we have in this state, but also we're looking at some international kinds of things. Finland and some of those countries that have already gone back to school and how they have done it and how they have done it successfully with social distancing and different kinds of things. But during this morning's meeting, one of the superintendents on the task force shared an article with us, and it was a statewide plan for Maryland and its public school system. And I want to read to you the title of the article. The title of the article was Mask, Temperature Checks, Shorter Weeks. A state's plan outlines how school could change in Maryland. And just reading it, in reading it, there was one sentence that stood out to me that I highlighted. And this was, of course, I was reading it after the Zoom call. Not a whole lot stood out to me in the 54-page document because it was almost too much to even take in and digest. But in the article itself, there was one line, and it reads like this. One thing it makes clear, school as it was is no more, at least not for the near term. And I'm going to tell you that as a superintendent, that's been very difficult for me to imagine, specifically when it comes to some of the rituals and routines that we have used as long as I was a student in the school system and as long as I've been an employee in it, 31 years. It's hard for me to accept that things will be different, but they will. And that's just the truth of the situation. I participate every week since all of this started in March in 5 to 6 Zoom meetings where we talk about not only how do we bring the current school year to a close, but how do we start another one in August when we don't even know what phase of the governor's plan that we'll be in August. So many unknowns, and it just gets crazy. And some evenings I go home and I'm just zoomed out. If someone told me I had to do another Zoom meeting, I would have to be covering more gray hairs than I already do every morning because I, like you, don't get to go to the salon. Haven't had a salon appointment since early March. Don't know when I'll get another one, so you'll just have to deal with my gray hair the way I'm dealing with it. But sometimes I just feel like it's a bad dream, and I want to wake up and it all be over, everything be just like it was before it all really started to unfold. But I hate to tell you this, in my conversations with superintendents and other leaders throughout the state, this pandemic is going to affect us for a much longer time than we ever imagined when we first started hearing about coronavirus. I want to stress the importance of ongoing open lines of communication as we work to get all of this worked out, and we will get it all worked out. The great news that I'm going to end my report with is that we have exceptional leaders throughout this school system, and those are in schools, in our community, at our central office, everywhere. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that all that goes into play will be as positive as humanly possible. It will also be as safe as possible for students, staff, and families as we move forward. We have never dealt with a health issue like this pandemic. And it's different. I am being forced to make decisions that I'm sorry I don't have the credentials really to make. Because as I tell my family all the time, the doctor in front of my name does not mean I'm a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of education. And so we're being forced to make a lot of decisions based on health issues. So I just ask for everybody's patience. As much as you can, I ask that you understand it. And I ask for you to be as cooperative as possible, because these decisions are not made lightly, and they're not made in a split second. So at this point, Board, I would ask, do any of you have any questions of me and my report?
Regarding the past due school accounts?
Yes.
I know there's a couple of different groups in the county that have offered to help with that.
Yes.
Do we know a dollar figure that they may be willing to kick in, basically?
In all honesty, Board Member Schrum, what I have instructed the principals is that they are to try to collect as much of that from families before we reach out to those organizations. But at this time, I don't have any dollar figures that they're willing to help us with. I thought that we needed, as far as a good faith measure, we needed to try to collect as much of that $19,000 as possible before we reach back out to those groups. Okay, good question. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now on to our proposed Board of Education policy revisions. Ms. Sharon Mahaffey, will you present our third reading on policies?
We have 6 policies that are up for the third reading tonight. I received no comments, suggestions, or complaints, so I ask that we approve those policies.
Members of the Board, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to accept these policies?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Mahaffey, if you'll continue on for first reading of policies.
We have 5 policies that are up for first reading, and we will ask for comments and suggestions on those and bring them back next month.
Ms. Mahaffey, those were all just, I looked at those the 5 that are on for new. Those look mostly editorial and statutory. Did I miss any substantive changes?
I didn't think there were. Do you want to go ahead and approve them on first reading?
I'll move to approve them because they really weren't anything of substance.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I recognize Ms. Kathy Cottle, School Nutrition Director. This is so different. It's backwards.
Chairman Ryan, board members, and Dr. Hefner, thank you for allowing me to present the bids for next year. You received the documents. Deborah Watts asked me why I didn't include the bid for U.S. Foods, and it's like 180 pages or something, so I didn't include that one. But we would request that we roll over our bids. They are all available to be rolled over this year. We have the milk bid, Dean Foods, Pet Dairy, our U.S. Foods bid. Our Correction Enterprises estate is with the state, so that one's easy to do. And then our Smart Mouth Pizza, which is our premium pizza. This year we changed to only offer that as a premium meal. So those are the 4 bids. I wanted to let you know also that to date we have served, since March 17th, 187,916 meals to our students in Alexander County.
Great job.
So we're working hard. We've been able to find food, mostly because I'm taking advantage of every commodity that there is in North Carolina. They're even calling me to ask me if I want this and this, and I say, you know I do. So we work it into
She's developing quite the reputation in the state.
But we're receiving some commodities from other counties that have an abundance that they're not using right now. We're making it work. So I would ask that you approve those bid documents, and if you have any questions on child nutrition, I'd be glad to answer what I can.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say great job. Y'all are working hard, and we all know the hard work you're putting into that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I pass that along to our employees because they are working hard. They're getting tired, but they're hanging in there. And we've got substitutes on the ready to fill in if somebody needs a break. The lucky thing is there's no vacation places open, so they can't really vacate anywhere.
That's true.
The state is planning to submit waivers. We have a waiver, just so you know what it's called, the non-congregate waiver. Normally in summer feeding, the students have to eat everything on site.
Okay.
They can take a fruit or something home with them. But part of the agreement is that you have to eat on site. But we did get immediately a non-congregate waiver, so the student doesn't have to show up. A parent can come. We even have some parents who are picking up neighborhood meals for the children in the neighborhood. Right now we've got 6 buses taking food out to families that don't have transportation. We have had a wonderful relationship with our transportation director. Maintenance, we received an email maybe 2 weeks in that U.S. Foods could no longer take our commodities. We have part of our contract is that we have it sent from our warehouse to U.S. Foods. They charge a fee and send it to us. They said they couldn't take any more because restaurants have closed down. They're overstocked with food. But maintenance has been wonderful. We've had 2 deliveries of about a total of 1,000 cases of food from Department of Agriculture that has been delivered by maintenance to the schools. So that's been wonderful. We've just had a great relationship with maintenance. I try to get them cookies every time they do that. But everybody's been helping everybody to meet the needs of the kids.
Well, thank you.
Ms. Cottle, I'm so impressed by you, and I know all these hardworking people, because I do like to eat, and so I'm thrilled that people haven't gone hungry, but I'm wondering how long you're going to be doing that this summer.
If this is extended, the non-congregate feeding, I've already sort of pre-warned our employees that we could keep this up they're looking at through September. So it's approved already through the end of June. So we're hoping that we don't have to close any site. We have 7 sites, and in worst case scenario is that we would have to close 1 or 2 sites, but keep East, West, and Central open, and just inform the parents well in advance of where they can go to get meals.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and I'd like to make the motion we approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the bid documents, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, just one more comment, and that is if you out in the community hear anybody asking questions about the pandemic EBT cards, I've received lots of of comments from that. We're also working with Anita Jenkins to make sure that all the free and reduced lunch applications are up to date, because parents are going to, as part of the COVID-19 monies, receive extra money on their EBT cards for special funds. So they'll receive those in 2 installments. So I'll be glad to answer questions. My only part in it is to make them aware that applications are available if they've had a change in their income status, they've lost their job or whatever, that we have made sure that those are up to date.
Thank you, Ms. Cottle. Next on our agenda is Ms. Jessica Anderson, Director of Testing and Accountability.
Good evening. You'll see me next month also, so this is probably a short-term change. I can tell you with the early college, they wanted to make a few work days up here in second semester because CVCC has no classes on Friday. So what they've requested we do once they took a second look at it is to pull 2 work days from the end of the year and put them on March 19th and April 23rd, and that gives them just 2 work days in the second semester. I'll need your approval for that change, but I do want to let you know that the early college is not bound to the hour or the 190-day requirement.
And they're also not bound to the start and stop.
They are not. So after this is approved, I will be getting with the principal at the early college because they will have to designate the 5 remote learning days, but we hesitated till we got this change put in place.
Okay. All right, thank you. Members of the board, you've heard the recommendation for the Alexander Early College calendar change. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approved.
Second. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next month.
Okay, our next agenda item is Ms. Macy Jones, Head Start Director.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I'm here to talk to you for just a moment about several items of importance that's concerning the Head Start program. About 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 now, the regional office contacted all of the Head Start directors and asked if anyone was interested in applying for summer program. And at that time, we were just supposed to note our intent, whether we would like to apply or not. Prior to that time, our governor had not announced that we would not be returning to school for the year. So I did put in a notice that we intended to apply, but since that time, our governor has said that we would not have any face-to-face instruction. Therefore, after meeting with the managers and talking to the staff, we have decided that we will not apply to offer summer services for our preschool children. Preschool children are susceptible to all colds, all viruses, and then you add this COVID-19 to that. We just don't feel like that we could sanitize effectively, and we're just not sure how we would keep them safe. And, you know, you can't keep 3- and 4-year-olds from putting their hands on each other. It just doesn't work that way in the real world. So we have decided that we will not apply for the summer program. The second thing that you have on the item, the agenda, is flexibilities in enrollment and non-federal share waivers. They have given us the opportunity to apply for more non-federal share waivers. That is our in-kind. If you remember, I came before you earlier and said that we had asked for a waiver, which we received, and we had said that we thought that we could obtain $130,000 of in-kind. But since that time, COVID-19 has occurred. So the federal office has said that if we need an additional waiver, that they will grant those waivers. I'm working with our data manager, and she is getting our figures together so that we'll see where we stand. I can come back and report to you next month about whether we've reached 130,000 or whether we want to ask for an additional waiver. The third thing is Head Start helps. It was just a FYI type of information for you about questions and answers. I just wanted you to see how the regional office is addressing questions that are coming into them so that everybody is getting the same information across the nation. So if you have any questions or any comments about that, I'll be glad to talk to you about that as well. And then we have an e-blast that came out in April 2020, and it's talking about governing board approvals and flexibilities. And the summary for this is they're not making us do all of the things that we normally do to have our COLA, that's the cost of living adjustment, and quality improvement funding approved. For instance, I would normally have to send in the board minutes that show that this was approved, our submission was approved. Instead, they are allowing us to just have a signed statement from the board chair saying that I was here, that I presented it to you, that I gave you the information. And you should have a copy of that COLA and quality improvement funding guidance letter that shows that we received $30,190 for a cost of living adjustment. They had recommended that we give an increase to our employees, but that does not cover the recommended increase amount. We would have to find additional funds. In addition to this, we can also apply this $30,190 to any increases in insurance costs, benefits costs, fringe, and all of those other things that are associated with staff salaries. And that's what I'm asking you to do tonight, because today I worked with our finance manager, and just the addition to the increase in insurance is over $300 per person. And that's going to take about $12,000 to $13,000 of that $30,190. And then we would like to apply the additional amount to the fringe cost. Also, you see on the quality improvement, we have $55,000. And we had talked about, as a management team, applying for a family advocate's position. But after talking all of that over, and talking with Dr. Robin Hilton, we determined that the money could best be used to provide speech therapy for our children, because the Exceptional Children's Department is more and more, they become overextended more and more every year. So we would like to use this monies to apply for a position for a speech therapist. And what is not on here that I just got last week after I turned in everything else, and I don't need action on this, is that the federal government has given us $29,000 for COVID-19 monies. And we'll talk to the board, we'll talk to the policy council, and see how we can use that monies to support our Head Start children and families, or the program. We had talked over maybe trying to install washers and dryers at every site where we have children, but it's my understanding, after checking that out through Chris Campbell, that we do not have the capacity, the space, to add washers and dryers at every site. Because right now, if children soil their cot covers or they soil their clothes, we either have to bag those, keep them in the cubby all day, send it home, or somebody has to drive to Taylorsville School, where we do have a washer and dryer, and wash those cot covers or clothes. And some of our employees were taking soiled linens home, washing them at home, or going to the laundromat, but now we don't have a laundromat. So if we had the space, we wanted to add washers and dryers. But it's my understanding that we don't have this adequate space to do that. So we'll talk about how to best use these monies. I don't have to have any approval on the COVID-19 monies, but I do need approval to submit the COLA and the quality improvement funding guidance. And I will ask Chairwoman Ryan if she would be willing to sign a statement saying that I came before you tonight and explained everything.
Yes, ma'am, I will. So we need approval for COLA, the COLA monies, and the quality improvement funding. Is that what we're approving tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So members of the board, you have that in front of you, and what was presented for the COLA monies and the quality improvement funding. Is there a motion to approve?
I make the motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
Mr.
did
Bowman,
hear
if
we
you'll
are
see-
getting a laundromat. Somebody is.
We are?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes, I just heard that.
Great,
so.
great. Mr. Bowman, if you'll...
Papers that were just signed just very recently.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. And Mr. Bowman, if you'll see me afterwards, I have something
Okay.
for you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last item on the agenda is calendar provisions and remote instructions. Dr. Jennifer Hefner.
Okay. This discussion pertains to the current calendar, 2019-20 calendar. I have had Deborah attach a copy of that calendar into your agenda, but the bottom line is that we had the last student day planned for June 9th. It was an early dismissal day that day, but that was the last day for students, and then there were 3 work days planned for staff. We've had some conversation with principals, and in all honesty, the longer that we do the remote learning, participation continues to decline. And I am proposing tonight that the board approve that we don't call an end to the school year, but that we stop all remote and distribution of student packets on May 29th. And then that gives the teachers 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, to collect work from students, grade that work, put, make comments as far as how they have done during this COVID-19 situation. Dr. Curry is working on the documentation that will be kept for students and that sort of thing, but to just collect devices, collect any kind of balances that they may have, be that for lunch debt, if they need to pay for things at the school level, whatever, turn in media center books. But I am asking that the board approve that the last day of instruction, be that remote, packet, or anything of that nature, be May 29th, even though we're not calling it the end of the year. We will continue on. The end of our year will be June 12th for staff, but that we do stop that instruction on the 29th of May.
Okay, board members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I would love to make that motion because I know these teachers are worn out and they're working harder. I know I used to say I'd rather be there to get a substitute. Well, this is even harder than planning for a substitute teacher. And I'm so proud of all of them. So I would love to make the motion that the remote learning ends on the 29th of May.
I think there'll be parents that are happy as well.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now enter into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A6. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.